Hey guys, it's Graham, a big welcome back to my channel, and in today's video I'm going to be telling y'all a crazy story that I cannot believe I've not told yet about an Austrian family living on a vineyard. This was insane. I got to interview these people live and it had a really humorous ending, so be sure to hang in there to hear it out. So let's not waste any more time, let's jump right into the story. This story takes place way back, like 2 weeks before COVID became a thing. My brother and I were traveling around Europe, and you may have heard about this story through other videos that I've done. This particular story happened the night before I met the Austrian host family that ghosted me, and you can watch that video right up here. It's super entertaining. For just a brief recap for those of y'all who aren't familiar with the story, my brother and I were taking 3 weeks to do this once-in-a-lifetime trip around Europe. We went to Spain, Portugal, Austria, Slovakia, France. I mean, it was a really crazy adventure and we had so much fun. But while we were in Austria, I had the chance to meet 4 potential host families in person. It was crazy. It was absolutely wild. In 4 days, I met 4 host families, and this is the story about the very first host family that I ever met in Austria in person. At the time of this story, I was about 2 months post my au pair horror story. So the whole thing was still like really affecting me mentally. It was still really playing on my mind, and I was a little bit freaked out about actually doing au pair interviews again, as this was the first interview I had done. This was the first au pair related thing I had done since the horror story, so I was really nervous about it. My brother and I flew from Madrid to Vienna. It was a super early flight. It was horrible. It kept getting delayed, and although we were supposed to leave at like 7 a.m., I don't think we even left till around lunch for this 3-hour flight. Essentially what was going to happen on this particular day, we were going to fly to Vienna. My brother was going to go into the city to find our Airbnb, and I was going to go about an hour outside of the city, which I didn't know at that time, an hour outside of the city to meet a potential host family. I've been talking with a bunch of host families on Au Pair World in Vienna, and I told the ones that I was interested in that I was coming to Vienna, and this particular host family told me, they were like, well, we'll pay for your train ticket. We live just a bit outside of the city. You can come and visit us. And I was going to do it the very day that I arrived. So I was going straight from the train station to their village, and I actually have a clip of that, so here that is. Hey everyone, so I just arrived in Vienna, Austria. We had a really early morning. We had to get up at like 6:30, but I'm meeting 4 different host families while I'm here in Vienna, prospective host families. One I'm about to get on a train right now to go and meet. It's super cold. I want gloves and a scarf, super cold. One I'm about to get on a train to go and meet right now. I'm meeting another tomorrow, another the next day, and then another sometime within those days. But we're going to Bratislava on Monday. So it's Friday, we have Saturday, Sunday in Vienna, and then we go to Bratislava on Monday. So we'll see. It's super chilly right now though. I'm freezing, everything's cold. So we'll see what happens. This host family initially told me they lived close to Vienna, which to me is within half an hour, but that was not the case. When I got on the train, we just kept going and kept going and kept going and kept going. And mind you, I had never been to a German-speaking country. I had never been to Austria. My German was not good at the time, so it was a bit of a shock for me. First of all, I almost missed the train because the village I was going to was apparently really small, and I essentially just had to ask people getting on the different trains if the village that I was going to was a stop on this train's route. So eventually I found the one after probably a half hour, and I got on the train and we just didn't stop. We kept going. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It was an hour and 10 minutes that I was on this train before I finally got off at my stop. Rest assured, at this point, I was pretty sure I was in the middle of nowhere. Mind you, this train was going quite fast, so I was very far away from Vienna, not speaking any German, in the Austrian countryside, in the middle of this super tiny Austrian village. When I stepped off the train, the first thing I noticed were just endless fields surrounding me. It was one of the most beautiful sights I've ever seen, to be honest. It was beautiful to have this Austrian village in the background and all these fields with the sun setting, but it kind of sunk into me that I am not in Vienna. I was way away from the city, but it's fine, I was going for it. I just wanted to take a second to pause this video and remind you guys that right now I'm taking new students for my online English and Spanish classes. If you want to learn English or Spanish, you can do online private personalized lessons with me where we can go through the basics of the language or work all the way up to practical business level skills or conversational level. Right now, for the viewers of this video, I'm offering one free lesson with me. You can do a free English or Spanish lesson with me at the time of your choosing just for watching this video. So if you're interested in this, go ahead and send me a message over on my Instagram or shoot me an email and we will set up the time for you. Now, back to the video. The family had mentioned to me that they lived on a vineyard, but I didn't really think that much about it. I mean, I thought Austrian wine, I didn't even know Austria made wine. So I figured they probably had some like grapevines and they just called it a vineyard. So as I'm walking towards the direction they give me, I'm starting to realize the extent of this village's vineyards. I don't want to mention the exact village, but more or less the village itself was small and circular, and then all around it for miles and miles were vineyards. Just these endless hills of grapes and grapevines. It was a really stunning sight. I mean, really, it was such a romantic vision for me going through this Austrian village, as I had never seen pretty much anywhere other than Spain. Up until this point, we had just spent like one weekend in Portugal, a weekend in France. So Spain was all that I really knew, and Austria was so different. It looked so different. The air smelled different. It was so cold. I honest to goodness felt like I was in a different world. So as I was walking through this village, all I could think about was just how crazy it was that me, this kid from middle of nowhere Georgia, was in Austria. Finally, I got to these people's house, and one of the first things I noticed was their house had this huge vineyard sign in the front. It said their name, X Vineyard, and it was massive. So at that time I kind of realized this was probably a bigger operation than I had thought of. I got in, I met the host family, met the kids, we ended up playing for about an hour, the kids and I, you know, just kind of getting to know each other, talking with the parents. It was a really fun experience, and they were a super sweet family. They showed me around the house. It was this beautiful house from the 30s. I just loved it. It was really beautiful. Over dinner, I discovered that not only did they have a vineyard, but the dad was a part of a family of master winemakers. This particular winery went back 400 years in this one family. So this vineyard had been owned by the same family longer than my country has existed. After dinner, the conversation kind of lulled a bit. The kids kind of went doing their things. So the dad asked me if I wanted to see the vineyard. Just a pro tip for you. If a master winemaker asked if you want to see a vineyard, say yes. So we leave the house and we start walking out into the vineyard, and he's showing me these different grapes, and mind you, it's dark at this point, so I'm having a hard time kind of piecing all this together. But he's showing me these different grapes and explaining the different properties, and I was interested, of course, but it was a bit over my head. So after that, he pulls me into this warehouse area. And I don't know how to describe this, y'all. I'm gonna try to find a picture that's somewhat comparable. But we walk into this warehouse, this massive building stacked floor to ceiling with barrels of wine. When I say floor to ceiling, I'm talking like half a football field, maybe bigger. I don't even know. 4-5 stories tall. This place was huge, stacked floor to ceiling with these barrels of aging wine. I've never seen anything like it, and we were the only people in there. It was insane. So we're walking around, he's showing me all the different kinds of wine that they produce, he's explaining it to me, and I'm no wine connoisseur. I like wine just as much as the next guy, but he goes over and he's like, you know what, let's try some of them. So he gets this long tube thing, like this glass tube, and he literally like would pick the cork off of this barrel, stick the tube in, pull it out, and when you pull out the tube, it would have wine. So he handed me a glass, he had a glass, and we're trying like all these different wines. I don't drink very much. I've never been drunk before. So for me, like trying all these different wines, I had to really take it easy because it was starting to wear on me a bit. It was some of the best wine, I think probably the best wine I've ever tried in my life, and it literally came straight out of the barrel. When we kind of arrive at the end of the warehouse, this long hallway just stacked full of wine barrels, he asked me if I want to see the family wine cellar, and obviously the answer here is yes. We go outside and we go to this wine cellar. You would never even know that it's a wine cellar, much less a very expensive wine cellar. He opens these big old oak doors. We go down in this like stone staircase cellar, And again, it is floor to ceiling, probably 15 feet this time, full of wine. This place was much bigger than my bedroom, and this was a collection of wines that his family has curated over 200 years. The oldest wine inside of that room was from the early 1800s. Picture that. Isn't that insane? So he's showing me these different bottles, and it's honestly one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my entire life. So after we walk out, he was like, you know what? Why don't I just give you a couple of bottles? So he gives me 2 bottles of their family's wine. Like I said, I don't even really drink, so I couldn't say no though. I definitely couldn't say no. So I take these bottles, we go back into the house. I end up talking to the family a bit more, and we actually drank some more of their wine. So time comes, I left their house. It was definitely dark at this point, and I'm walking around trying to find the train station, and it is pitch black outside. On the way there, it was still a little bit daylight. I think it was close to sunset, but at this point it was like 8:30, probably close to 9. Super, super cold and dark. I mean, you could not see a single thing. It was eerie, to say the least. The host family had given me some money to get the train back to Vienna, but I couldn't even find the train station in the dark, and I didn't have service. So after 30 minutes, I finally found the train station. I was the only person there. It was super, super eerie. But I got back on the train, I went back to Vienna, and it was a sight to see because I had my massive travel backpack, but I didn't have room for anything else. So I was just walking through Vienna with these 2 really fancy bottles of wine in my hands. Eventually, I got back to the Airbnb. I told my brother the whole story. It was crazy. We popped open the wines, we tried them. They were the best wines I've ever had in my life. But it was just a wild story, and I can only imagine myself looking like the chief of tourists walking through Vienna with these 2 big bottles of wine. I'm sure it was a sight to see. In the end, obviously I didn't go with this family. They were super, super sweet, but I didn't love how far from Vienna they were. It was a crazy experience, and honestly, I might do it now. Like, after living my Seville experience, I might do it. Who knows? It would be more appealing to me. But that is the time that a host family tried to get me a little bit too tipsy. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you have, please be sure to like it, subscribe to the channel. New videos come every single week, so I hope to see you there. Muchas gracias y hasta luego. Ciao.